Hi, guys. Today I want to talk about time and all the myths about time, everything that goes into it, basically. All right, let's get started. Had to find the time to record this, by the way. But I am once again reminded that time is a concept which is used to keep us here and also keep us plugged into this matrix life that they've created around us. Time is actually the most fluid, nonlinear, intangible concept out there, and it can be transcended on so many levels. Just the fact that they're trying to put a measure on time through clocks, calendars, days, months, years, appointments, reminders, it all starts to make more and more sense the deeper down the rabbit hole you go. So, the biggest myth about is time is linear. But that is not true because time is actually fluid. And another myth is that time can be measured when time is actually the biggest illusion there is. And in reality, time transcends space, is bendable, and highly accessible across all realms and dimensions. And I'll talk about that in this video too. Another myth is that you cannot change time when indeed you can actually change the outcome, perspective, and energetic shift of time. And also an event that has occurred already. You can make it less traumatizing by shifting the energy of that event and by healing trauma and pain across several different timelines, no matter if it's past, present, or future. So I'm just going to read when I was, going through and just trying to psychically read on it. I'm going to read from my notes here. So I was just wondering, is time a program or a code? And what I got was time is an illusion. It actually does not exist because the moment, just the moment that we're currently in, there are so many people that always talk about the moment and being in the moment. And a lot of those are new age deceivers like Eckhart Tolle and others, but there is some truth to it because basically the only thing that we have is right now, the present moment, right? So the moment is fleeting and they try to trap it and grasp it with clocks, with calendars. They try to put everyone under a spell as well. So time in and of itself does not seem to be a program or coding, but what I did got on aging a little while ago, I think that was 2 or 3 years ago, is that aging is a code that we can crack, and aging is very much related to time. I want to go through the different calendars because a calendar is a type of measurement that has been put into our reality to put us under the spell of time and under the pressure of time too. And something that I have noticed when trying to record this video is the more I talk about time, the more stressed out I feel. Like literally, I was trying to put my notes together for this video, trying to get some pictures together, everything. The more I was doing it, the more I was feeling stressed out under like time pressure, time constraints, the way that we feel it occasionally, especially people who work in these super stressful jobs, bankers or someone who's really under a lot of time constraints. If you actually reverse time, by the way, in the English language, if you reverse that word, you get emit, and that means giving off, sending forth, or discharging. Also very interesting because it's kind of like giving something off, right? Trying to trap our time and give it off to somewhere else. And I also had this one YouTube live. I'll try to link it if I can find it. Where Alison McDowell was talking about it too, but it was a story about Momo and how Momo was encountering these black suited men. Momo's a child in the story from Michael Ende, Michael Ende in German. And so these black suited men were trying to trap time from people. And it was like a currency too. So people were feeling they had all the time in the world. This is like in a Mediterranean country, possibly Italy. And they had all the time in the world. They were just wasting their time, according to these black suited men. And so the black suited men tried to get the time from them. And so time is a very high value currency for these matrix controllers, it seems, especially if it's talked about in books like that, right? Because a lot of those books are giving away the agenda that we're in or that they want to enforce. One measurement of time is a calendar. And I just had to look this up. How many calendars do we actually have right now? Not just in the past, because we had the Mayan calendar, we had the Julian calendar, we had so many calendars, but we actually have 40 calendars that are still in use right now. You just have to imagine this, right? 40 different calendars. And what are those calendars? Well, a few of them are pretty common, such as the Gregorian calendar that we have right now, especially if you're watching this from the US or Western Europe. Then we have the Chinese lunar calendar, also very important for a huge portion of the population, especially the Asian one. We have a few Hindu calendars. And then, of course, we have the Jewish calendar as well. And I mean, altogether, it's 40 calendars nowadays that are really still in use, which was quite shocking to me. We also have a Persian calendar. So this is the Persian calendar. You can see down here, Iranian, Persia, Iran, it's the same thing. Now, the Persian calendar, which I was not aware of this, but the Persian calendar is not the same as the Arabic calendar. So there are two different things. Even though Iran is an Arabic culture, they have a different calendar system from, let's just say, Egypt or Afghanistan or other countries. So what I found was the Iranian calendar, also known as the Persian calendar, is a solar calendar, and it's used in Iran and a few other countries. It has 12 months and is based on astronomical observations and calculations. So then you have the Arabic calendar, which is also known as the Hijri. I don't even know how you pronounce it. It's Hijri calendar. This is a lunar calendar. So the main difference is a solar calendar and a lunar calendar. The Arabic is a lunar calendar. It also has 12 months, 12 lunar months, and it's approximately 11 days shorter than the Gregorian calendar. Supposedly, the Iranian calendar, which is the solar calendar, is supposed to be the world's most accurate calendar, by the way. I found that out about a year ago when I was just trying to do more research on calendars. And I'm like, what is the oldest or most reliable calendar? Supposedly, it really is this Iranian calendar. So the main difference between those two is the solar and the lunar calendar. And the Iranian calendar has its own unique system of timekeeping, and it's been in use since the 6th century, whereas the Arabic calendar is more closely tied to the Islamic history and tradition. So I'm going to assume it's only been in use since the 1400s, maybe 1300s, not as long as the Iranian calendar. But I found that very interesting when I was just doing research on that. Now we had a Julian calendar before we switched over to the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar changed for us here in the Western world pretty much around the 1560s, like 1560 something, 62, 63, 65, somewhere around there. And the Julian calendar was around since Gaius Julius Caesar, so it was a 45 BC, thing around there. Like it was a while ago. And then they switched it over in the 1560s to the Julian calendar. So, no, sorry, the Julian calendar was switched to the Gregorian calendar around that time. Supposedly the Gregorian calendar, which was the name comes from the Pope who was in charge back then, is 365 days long. And it's more precise than the Julian calendar, which is also when I'm looking at this, is also 365 days, but there's like this quarter difference of a day between both, which makes the Gregorian supposedly more reliable. Just going through this, actually, it makes no sense why they switched the calendar other than the fact that they just wanted another reset and they wanted to confuse the heck out of us and just put us under a new system. So now we have this entire leap year system. And a leap year was actually this year while I'm recording this, by the way. So every 4 years we're dealing with that. Also, just the entire fact that we have seasons. I mean, seasons don't exist everywhere in the world, right? So it makes you wonder, why did seasons even come into existence? Like fall, winter, spring, summer. they don't exist all over the world, and they're very different in different areas of the world too. So it really does make you wonder about a lot of things, like why are they putting nature under this spell too? I think there's just so much to it in and of itself. So we have these 40 calendars that are still in use nowadays, the Persian one being possibly the most precise one, but it's not even used in a lot of countries, only used in 2 different countries, supposedly. We had our calendar switch from Julian to Gregorian in the 1500s. They were messing with our time. They're confusing us through those things. And they're probably also chopping around, the mud flood and other timelines. Now, with the Mayan calendar, that was predicting the end of the world around 2011-ish. Also very interesting. Just like the Mayans themselves, they were under this time spell too, supposedly. What does a time switch do? Because we literally just had our time switch here in the US. I know in other countries you have yet to have yours. So just like the daylight savings time and all of that. So what I do really think is that the time switch really messes with us energetically. We can for sure feel it on a physical level because our bodies need so much time to adjust to it, or just so much more extra caring and nourishment to adjust to it. But also energetically, we are out of it. And more people are noticing this. The amount of my friends on my social media who were just not feeling too well after the latest time switch that we had here in the US. Yeah, it could possibly also be age related, like people who are maybe of a more advanced stage, they feel it more than the younger people. But I really do feel the more we're doing these time switches and the more we're going into these very precarious years that are ahead, the more we're just going to feel it energetically too. So we also have this Hebrew calendar. I think they're in the year 5500 or so. Then we have this Chinese lunar calendar, which, like the rabbit, the dragon, all these different numbers, years, dates, meanings. And I do think they're there to confuse us all. So just as a collective all over the world, confuse us, put us on these different timelines, maybe splinter us up across all these different time spectrums too. Because if you're dealing with one calendar system, let's just say you're dealing with this Hebrew calendar system, or maybe even the Chinese lunar calendar system. I mean, yeah, supposedly the entire world kind of adheres to the calendar that we have here, the Gregorian one in a way or another. But just by adhering to that other one too, I do feel very strongly that we're being splintered up across all these different spectrums of time, and we're not always on the same timeline due to that as well. Now, time does not seem to exist outside this life matrix that we're in. Another thing is aging and time, they're related. So just the simple question, how old are you, as opposed to how young are you? That already says a lot. And also how much time that has passed between the years, between birthdays, between all these milestones, right? Like just the fact that we're celebrating, oh, okay, graduation, we're celebrating this and that, anniversaries, everything. It's putting us on this weird clock and time. And if your friends have graduated at a certain time or have gotten married at a certain time, why are you not there yet, even though you guys are the same age, all of that. So it's putting people under this immense societal pressure too. But this entire thing of, being how old, or how, instead of saying, how young are you? It also makes you appear that the more you advance in age, the worse your life supposedly becomes, which is actually not true at all, right? I mean, I do strongly feel that age is, as cliche as it sounds, age is really just a number. And if you just look at 2 different people who are the exact same age, one looks amazing, the other one maybe not so much. Perhaps genetics have to do with that, but probably more so lifestyle decisions and other things. I mean, it really just shows you how much of well, I don't want to say program aging is, but like this coding that aging is, that's really within us. And when I do sessions on people, not just the DNA healing sessions, but regular shamanic healing sessions, I don't even necessarily work with the DNA. Every single time, especially over these past few years, but specifically the past few months, I feel October on, they've just been really trying to speed up our time or mess with our time. So I've really, really been feeling extremely pressured at the beginning of a session somehow. It's almost like you're trying to grasp time and you're unable to. And so I know for sure in the energetic realm, in the astral realm, when I try to work on people, they are really messing with that concept of time. You know, they're really messing with putting us under pressure, that time is escaping us, that we don't have enough time, not enough hours in the day. And I know others have been feeling this too. You know, you try to do something, an hour has passed, whereas maybe you think just 5 minutes have passed. I always like to use this example of the 1 minute, example. When I was growing up in, well, I guess we would call it elementary school, we had this one teacher who basically put the entire group of 20 kids, you know, they put this under this experiment where you have 1 minute where you have to be doing something that's a lot of fun. Let's just say you're jumping up and down, you're running around the room, you're playing with your friends. And then in the next minute that you receive or that you're getting, you have to be as quiet as possible, not do a single thing, maybe just stare at at each other while you're sitting on a chair, but basically just not do anything. And this is something they did to us when we were kids. And we already started noticing, of course, the minute where you do a lot of things, you do things that are fun, you're chatting with others, you're running around, that minute passed by like that. It was basically over in 15 seconds. But when you did the other minute where you were so silent and you're not allowed to do anything, it seemed like it was 30 minutes that, or maybe an hour that had passed. Whereas both from the measurement that they're giving us was really just the minute. And that already shows us, you know, if you do this experiment yourself at home, if you just set a timer or whatever, that already shows us how time is really just in your head, an illusion, and it's kind of trapped in all these instruments that they're having, you know, the clocks, the timetables, every single thing. So they're putting a measure on time through these things, also through months, through years, appointments, reminders, you know, so many reminders that pop up on our phone perhaps, or just reminders that we receive every single week from just something that we put, the pressure that we put on ourselves. And if you go to time and look at your pets, like your dog and cats, the time for them and the way they age is very different, right? So you say, just to take a dog as an example, when you say a dog, 1 year for a dog is like 7 years, especially when they're full grown. And then the dog obviously ages way sooner. And so dogs only turn a certain age, you know, anywhere between 10 and 16 or 10 and 17 years old. So yeah, it's also very interesting how animals are under a different time or on a different timeline. It's a different perception of it, a different perception of aging and ages as well. And when you take alternative substances and you're accessing alternate realms, you also understand that the concept of time is very different from what you're used to, because when you're really in that headspace and when you're really under the influence of all of that, which I'm sure some people watching this have been, I know I've received comments on that. So let's just say you are in this alternate reality, you've accessed this alternate realm somehow. You know, 5 minutes can literally seem like 12 hours or more. And when you're really under that, under the influence of all that, it's almost like you can grasp time and the space between time. It's very fascinating. And I think that really gives some people an understanding of the concept of time. So they've been trying to put us on this time agenda. I think 2030 is definitely a very clear one that they want to steer us towards. The concept of time and age can really stress you out. You know, I remember when I was in my 20s, specifically mid 20s, people call it the quarter life crisis because supposedly you only turn a certain age. For example, well, if it's a quarter life, it would be around 100 years, but people are only supposed to turn anywhere between 70 and 100 years, or 70 and 90 years in this reality, right? That's what they want for most people, at least. So I would call it a quarter life crisis because 25 is not a midlife crisis by any means. But I do remember I was very sad, almost depressed, because at that point in my life, I was kind of feeling very pressurized. I've seen a lot of pressure when I was looking at other people's lives and what they had accomplished at the same age or around the same age. And I felt very stressed beyond means because I thought I had to be more advanced or more progressed in my life, etc. You know, I was having actual panic attacks once I hit that age. And I thought there was something wrong with my life. But it does take a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom to admit that everyone is on their own path, has their own timeline and their own journey. But when you look at all these magazines and blog posts, and it's gotten better over the past 10, 15 years for sure. But the generation that was before mine, I want to call Generation X and also the baby boomer generation, when I just look back at all that stuff, you know, where people were literally pressured into, oh, you have to marry at a certain age, otherwise something's wrong with you. You have to do this and that. I do think, you know, millennials and the generation that comes after, like that's younger than me, I do think we have it a bit better in that sense because we're kind of just showing you don't have to be that traditional by all means. Like, no, by no means you have to be that way at all. And so I think that was the first time in my life where I really felt this is just such a programming that you have to be somewhere at a certain age. And just because you're not there, there's something wrong with you. So this entire time and age, it can really, really stress you out, especially the younger people. Because the older I got, especially once I hit 30, and I just saw how no one has it figured out around us, right? The older I got, the more I just felt it didn't matter. It really didn't matter. But it's something about being in your teenage years and being in your 20s that stresses you out almost more. And there is this one saying that goes, youth is wasted on the young, right? Because they don't really appreciate being young at that age. They think it's going to last forever. They're never going to be old and all of those things. And when I just look back on those years and I'm like, yeah, it's so right. You know, the saying is just so correct because I just wish I had enjoyed those years a bit more and not felt so stressed out about these weird expectations around me. But, you know, obviously we just grow older and then we learn from all of that too. So we have this app called TikTok, which they're talking about banning here in the US. What I also found interesting is the moment I heard that name a few years ago, I mean, TikTok, it's like a clock, like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, right? Related to time somehow, possibly. It's just a possible explanation for the name. Now, I do strongly think we can change our own timelines to our liking. And we can change not just our personal timelines. Of course, we can do that too. So they're trying to, like the controllers of this reality, the video game controllers, the Matrix controllers, they're trying to basically put us on a timeline. And for people who aren't aware of that or are not conscious about the fact that you can just tear all of this up, you know, all these life contracts, the entire life script that they gave you before entering this reality, you can also change the timeline that they want to put you on. And every single thing in our lives can be manipulated, not just towards the negative, but certainly also towards the positive. And even though we are partially still playing in the time machine that they put us in, this does not mean we cannot intentionally change the outcomes and take back the reins of our life, or even on a global level. So you can actually learn how to deal with timelines and how to change those to your advantage, not just the personal ones. So the personal ones would be, okay, so I want to move here in a certain age, or I want to retire here. I want to meet the person I want to marry, or I want to start having a family, or whatever it is that you want. Or I want to have my own business. I want to accomplish this. I want to be the CEO of this company by the whatever it is that you want to accomplish on a personal level. You can do that for sure, but it's also actually on a global level. And we have seen within the past 4 years, you know, whatever agenda they've been rolling out, which you can't even talk about this super publicly on any of these channels. I talked about it a lot on my old channel, and a lot of those videos were censored and taken down. But with the past 4 years going the way they have been going, this is going to become a more and more important aspect as we are moving forward towards 2030 and beyond. So it is important to learn how to destroy all those agendas they're throwing at us and how to change the timelines to our liking, not just the personal ones, but also the global ones. Okay, I think that's all I had to say about time in particular. And you can learn how to do that in Combat the Matrix. That's the new course that I have running right now. And I hope this helps you to a certain degree. If you have anything that you want to add from your end in regards to time and all the things regarding time, definitely share it below, comment below. I'm always happy to hear from you. And I hope this didn't take up too much of your time. Could not resist that joke. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. And I wish you a wonderful day. Talk to you then. Bye, guys.